you've been a meditation teacher for a while. You've taught thousands in meditation. You've been a daily meditator for 25 years kind of thing. A mistake that you have noticed is that people mistake being peaceful as being passive. But
Mhm.
what do you find are the things that really make a quote unquote successful meditator? Like, what are those things that you notice in them?
Yeah, a successful meditator. Let's see. First, I say someone that does it consistently. That would be the big criteria. I mean, that's the thing that people struggle with the most is just consistency.
Yeah.
Um, which is really funny. It's always such a head scratcher to me. Like I get it, people get in their routines and they're busy, but it's like if you're doing this thing that you know is going to make you feel better and improve like every aspect of your life, why are you prioritizing that? You're sitting there in the kitchen on your phone, like scrolling Reddit for 15 minutes in the morning
Yeah.
and before you make your coffee or whatever. It's like, take 5 of those minutes and do meditation and like your whole day will be different. But, people don't do it. Yeah, I mean, I think a successful meditator is someone that does it. I think that doing, keeping it basic is going to be really useful for people. It's going to, those people generally find success. People that aren't trying to get too complicated and too fancy with it, because there's specific reasons why one would want to make their meditation really complicated. Generally, people that try to make their meditation complicated don't know why it needs to be complicated. And it's basically coming from a place of ego or misunderstanding or something like that.
Mhm.
Really, it should be as simple, because also the mind will just take care of the rest. Like it just needs to be as simple and steady as possible. And so for that, like someone, if they haven't meditated or if they feel like they're listening to this and their meditation feels somewhat disconnected or too challenging, really just sitting down and closing your eyes and just watching your breath, just paying attention with the focus of your mind, observing your chest rising and falling. And in your mind, you can think as you breathe in, you can think rising. As you breathe out, you can think falling. And in the place in between the breaths, you can think sitting. So if you're just thinking rising, falling, sitting, watching your chest move in, move out, etc., etc., and you just keep focusing on that for 5 or 10 minutes a day, you're going to have, especially over time, because meditation pays in compound interest for sure. And it pays like that because it's, you're rewiring the neuroplasticity of your mind. And so you just begin to see that you are less reactive, that you're more present, that you have more mental clarity. And as that happens, it just turns into this feedback loop to where it just gets stronger and stronger and builds on itself. But if someone were to do that every day, or even 5 times a week, they would really be quite successful. They would find success, I should say, by doing that.
Yeah, I think it's funny how we, especially as meditation, we meditate until we get to the point where we feel all right, and then we stop meditating, which is the
Right.
exact thing that got us to that point, right? Which is I find very ironic as well. I love your meditations are amazing as well. So if anyone's curious, that's why his
Thank
voice
you.
sounds so great. Is you do it yourself. And so meditating for 25 years plus, like for someone that's getting started in meditation, do you advise that they get started in sitting with their thoughts, sitting by themselves, guided meditation, or like how has your meditation practice changed over the years, and what do you advise people get started with?
Hmm. Yeah, I've never done a guided meditation, which is kind of funny.
Mm.
Um, but I know they're really helpful for people. I know they really like them because they can basically the the responsibility to have kind of the logical part of it is taken off of them, so they can just sit back and just enjoy and be guided. It's really useful for people. In terms of myself, I started meditating because I was reading weird old dusty books in the 90s and just trying to figure out like different things. And, a lot of the original writings, like the classical writing on meditation, they don't even use the word meditation. They use the word, like in the Pali translation of the word, is actually like dwelling. That's like a closer
Mm.
translation. And there's not clear, I mean, there are sort of instructions, but there aren't like the type of instructions that people would be thinking. um, uh, it's like sit down and dwell in your own consciousness until until you notice that you have no self, no stable sense of self. It's like, oh right, what a prescription, great.
True,
And
true.
it actually is
So true.
quite a good one, but may not be for everyone. Yeah, so I started with that, and I mean, I've just gone. It's really interesting for me to reflect on because at the very beginning, I was just trying to like calm down, because I was so stressed and anxious and freaked out all the time, and I was just always like in fight or flight mode. And so I remember like I would lay down on my bed and I would do this thing. I like created this kind of game for myself where I would like take a breath in and I would exhale. And whenever I exhaled, I would try and relax all the muscles in my body as much as I could. And I would inhale again and then exhale and try and relax them even more and just see how much I could like let go. And what's interesting is that turned out to be a really powerful practice,
Hmm.
and it got me out of being stuck in that amygdala brain fight or flight mode all the time, because I didn't know this at the time. But the reason why we're in this fight or flight mode is because we're panicking because of psychological reasons. But what our body thinks, because what the state of our mind is, that there's actually a threat, like a physical threat outside of us. So that's why it's like, oh, okay, and it holds on, it stays locked in that mode because our mind triggers that mode because of something like a kind of a mental formation, right? I should say, something we've imagined, and so it triggers it and the body holds on to it because it's like, oh shit, there's must be a jaguar or something around here. And so it freaks out and it creates a cycle. They feed back on each other. So then your body is freaking out. And so then your mind gets even more stressed. And then your mind creates more, stories that generate anxiety. And so your body gets even more stressed. And that's why people just stay and they just like live in this long, protracted state of anxiety and fight or flight all the time. But by breathing slowly like that, what's happening is that that state is called the sympathetic nervous system state, that fight or flight. Whenever you're breathing slowly, you actually move your body over into the parasympathetic nervous system state, which is also known as the rest and digest, which is like after eating, after going to the bathroom, after sex, your body naturally goes over into the state where it's like, because you wouldn't be doing any, if you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, you wouldn't be doing it unless you're a freak. You wouldn't be doing any of those three things if there was a threat around.
Right.
No one has a bear running at them with giant foamy teeth and fangs, and they're like, you know what, I should grab a sandwich. No, you get the fuck out of there. So anyway, so breathing slowly and calmly will send signals to your mind that your body is safe. And that starts to put you into this other nervous system state. And the more that you stay in the parasympathetic nervous system state, the more that becomes your natural state of operation. And so to get into the fight or flight mode now becomes as rare as whenever at one point you'd be like, oh God, I wish I could just calm down for a minute. Now it's the other way. Now it's like, it's hard to remember what it feels like to be in fight or flight mode, because of that. So I didn't realize at the time, but that slow, long, deep breathing, trying to relax the muscles more and more and more, I was doing exactly what I needed to be doing to start developing and cultivating that nervous system reset.